Welcome to Making Your Miles Count Production, an educational program to all Canadian lease owner-operators with your host, Robert Scheper.
Chapter 3, Duplicity, Exposed, Examined, and Evaluated. It goes a little bit into the discussion of pre-tax and after-tax. Now, in Chapter 2, we were talking about job-related costs and the difference between TL2 and non-taxable benefits, and how the judge was comparing $48 with $33. And realistically, it wasn't even the clearest picture because they're not really comparing the same things. The judge wasn't, and he didn't fully understand it. But $48 for an auditor, they were getting $48 after tax, whereas the $33 that Don Wilkinson was had to start with, but he was asking for 40, and he got 40. Actually, is a number that goes into the Income Tax Act, and it gets reduced, and it gets converted into after-tax benefit, which only was $5 or $6.
Yeah.
So you're not comparing $33 or $40 to $48. You're comparing $5 or $6 to $48. So the actual aberration is much more than even what the judge was implying at the time. That's where it's very important to understand the difference between after-tax money and pre-tax money.
Well, what the judge was saying there, they were getting 48, he was getting 33. Was the judge not saying that would be after taxes? The 33 or going up to 40?
Yeah, but he was thinking it was after tax.
Correct.
But it wasn't. It was only the amount that's put into the TL2 simplified onto that form.
So why is this before tax or after tax? What the government
because
employees
that's
were using?
non-taxable benefits. Very, very different. The $48 is non-taxable benefits, and
Correct.
It's tax-free money.
I understand.
But the $33 is just what's classified as a non-refundable tax credit. Okay, and but you don't actually. They wouldn't have got a check for $33 a day, or right now it's $69 a day. You don't. The government doesn't send you a after-tax check for $69.
No.
It actually goes into the income tax form, and then there's a whole bunch of formulas that are applied to it, and then the question is, what is the net effect of that $69? And right now the best province in Canada, that's $69, is $19.80 per day. Then the question is, what do auditors get today in non-taxable benefits? And right now it's right at $120 per day.
That's after tax.
That's after tax money. So if you take that $69 and you bring it down to $19.80, and so $19.80, that's basically 6 times, it's 600% difference, which is quite remarkable. If you go on our website, you will see the comparison of non-taxable benefits in blue to the TL2 in red. We'll show this the line here. What I got here is the history of non-taxable benefits to the TL2, and it goes all the way back to 1984, and it goes all the way up to 2022. And you'll see just a very gradual increase over 38 years, and then you have a much steeper increase when it comes to non-taxable benefits.
So the red, which is the TL2.
Yeah.
The TL2 is for company drivers, correct?
Company drivers, correct.
Right.
Or people who do not use non-taxable benefits.
Right, but not an owner-operator.
An owner-operator can use either one.
Okay.
It's up to them. They can choose whatever. If the person is self-employed, they have to use the TL2.
Okay.
But if they're incorporated, well, they could use either one. One is the non-taxable benefit is much more work, and you have to be set up for it.
Okay.
But if you do that, you can use either one.
Okay.
In there.
But if you're driving for a company,
yeah, if you're
the
driving,
company will automatically give you the TL2.
Yes. Yeah. At the end of the year, with your T4, they'll give you your
Okay.
TL2. It's signed and off and running. So those are the two systems that are available out there. The primary ones in the trucking industry.
Okay, but as an owner operator, leased onto a company, they won't give you a TL2.
They will not give you a TL2.
Correct. Only if you're a company driver.
Only if you're a company driver.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, incidentally, there was a court case, and this, I can't remember what the date was. It was, Jim Park actually, again, talked about it. I think it was very close right after, I think it was in 2007 or 2008, where 25 trucks, owner-operators from Moncton, New Brunswick, were audited. And I think because of Don Wilkinson case, this is an assumption, they probably used much larger numbers than the $45 a day that the form allows. They probably used the non-taxable benefit numbers, which was again much higher. And instead of battling that number through the courts, what's Canada Revenue Agency, I believe, I'm making some assumptions here, that what they did was they just said, if you're an owner-operator and you're self-employed, you cannot use the TL2 because on the bottom of the form there is a place where your employer must sign.
Correct.
And because when you're self-employed, you don't have an employer, and so you can't use the form. So that's when they said, no, you have to keep all of your meal receipts.
Oh, okay.
And within a few months, honestly, within 5 or 6 months, there was this sort of ricochet all across Canada where accountant says, wait a minute, you can't use you're self-employed. No, you have to keep all of your meal receipts.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was.
I remember that.
And you suddenly, like out of nowhere, that you suddenly had to keep it. They allowed it for 20 plus years. And suddenly now you couldn't use it. It created shockwaves in the industry. Now, what happened over the next 5 to 7 or 8 years, truck drivers got kind of ticked off at their accountants and said, I got to keep all of these meal receipts, Instead of losing a client, what they would say is, well, okay, just hand them in and I'll still use the TL2. They put them in there. A good bookkeeper would know how much receipts would go into that field, because the receipts goes into the exact same field back then as the TL2 did. They figured, okay, if anything, say above $12,000 in meals, for instance, it would probably flag an audit. So we'll just make sure as long as the receipts didn't get over that, it won't flag an audit. And that's true. It won't flag an audit if it's above below a certain
We
amount.
didn't do that very long.
No, until you found somebody who said, "Oh, I'll do it."
We were with the same accountant, but where we had to keep their meal receipts, that was very short lived.
Yeah. It was maybe a year or two there, but there are some accountants who still say, "No, you can't use the TL2. You have to keep your meal receipts." Depends on where you are in Canada. It's a little bit different. The most bizarre is we have had there for about 3 or 4 years. We've had. People come with us and say, I just got rejected for all of my TL2 and because I didn't have any meal receipts. And so we, help them through and show them how to do things. And then, but we also knew of auditors who were sitting down and training truck drivers to use the TL2, and they're owner operators. There's a duplicity there because they were saying no in one part of the country and teaching people how to do it in another. So it's very inconsistent. Now, for the most part, the TL2 is acceptable still. Back in 2000, 80% of, like I was saying, 80% of operators were self-employed and only 20 were incorporated.
Okay.
Now, 80% are incorporated. And when you're incorporated, well, then you can use the TL2 legally. There's nothing problem because you can sign as both the employer and the employee and be okay with it. So there's some unusual things that happen even all across Canada. You get different ways that CRA has been implementing things and stuff like that. But anyway, that's what happens there. Now, if you check on our website and you take a look at the comparison of non-taxable benefits versus the TL2, you'll see a huge difference. If you remember what the judge said, it just boggles the mind that these kinds of aberrations can occur. The implication is, okay, you guys should not have these great differences anymore. Mm-hmm. And so what did CRA do over the next decade or 2 decades? Did they actually follow what the judge deeply implied, that, hey, listen, we should all be on the same playing field, all should be on the same level? If you take a look at what happened from 2000 forward, you will see the non-taxable benefits actually increase considerably, whereas the TL2 increased but just slightly. So it actually got worse. Did the exact opposite of what the judge implied. That's a pretty significant point. In order to get this chart, I actually had to go through a Freedom of Information Act to get the TL2, not the TL2, I had the TL2, but the non-taxable benefit numbers all the way back to 1984. And so, to my understanding, when I was talking to the clerk who supplied it to me, and it was like a stack of papers this thick when I ordered it or whatever, no one had ever asked for it before. He actually balked a little bit at the Freedom of Information Act, and then in the end he said, what harm could it do? And he just sent it to me. Right? I wanted evidence long term. This is what the two systems have done in the past. It makes a big difference when we're talking building after-tax wealth. Because the TL2, the numbers that they give, like $69, we're not talking after-tax cash there, but in non-taxable benefits, that's after-tax wealth. What we're trying to do is help people build long-term after-tax wealth. So you have to think and operate under that same preface. Principle. The two. All right, I think that's it for chapter 3.
Thanks for stopping by Making Your Miles Count. For further Making Your Miles Count productions, call us at 877-987-9787 or download us at makingyourmilescount.com.